Hello, welcome to the Roy Rogers News Channel. Thank you so much for watching. Alright, today for our next competitive analysis, we're taking a little bit of a breather from the genderless Pokemon at the moment, and we're going to talk about Cloyster. Now, I have been collaborating with our co-host here, Roidedewok, on the Cloyster script for quite a bit of some time. So, Roided, would you like to say hello to our audience here?
Hey guys, it's good to be back.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have you back. Ever since the Infernape video, I've been wanting to have you back for some time now.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, certainly. And before we dive, pun intended, on the Cloyster competitive analysis, I would like to go into our advertisement, which is going to be why diamonds are truly not forever, and pearls are actually forever. Magnezone is going to make that wonderful case for you right now. Hello, this is Magnezone, selling you pearls, and specifically pearl rings, because diamonds are not forever. I know you're about to do a competitive analysis about that Cloyster, right? But you should know, buy a pearl. Pearls last, and diamonds are overrated. Isn't that right, Rodin?
I'm a bit of a brilliant diamonds man myself, but yeah.
I see.
Why don't we like diamonds?
That's a very good question. Because pearls are forever. They're cheaper. But never mind that.
Hey, no, I'm on board with that. That's all I need to hear.
All right.
Pearl.
Excellent. Yes. Pearls are forever. De Beers is not going to take over Magnezone's advertisement. De Beers is not going to take over Magnezone's advertisement. You are going to buy a pearl by Magnezone's Pearls. Buy them today. And yes, I can crack open those cloisters and get those pearls for you. Get them today, folks. Alright, I think we all know why diamonds are truly not forever. Isn't that right, Roded?
Yep. Fully set on it.
Yes.
Be efficient with some pearls.
De Beers, if you're listening, don't want a lawsuit. So, just throwing that out there. Roded, what do you think?
I think most likely you're safe from lawsuits from international diamond conglomerates. Whew. Just most likely.
Oh, that's good. All right. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Cloyster competitive analysis right now. And don't worry, we're not going to crack open a Cloyster. That'd be pretty brutal if we did. So, let's go and go to the big computer, and let's go ahead and take a look at Cloyster's stats. Alright, so Cloyster's tier is OU, its typing is water and ice, its resistances are water and ice, and its weaknesses are fighting, rock, grass, and electric. There are no immunities. And the base stats are HP 50, attack is 95, defense is a whopping 180, its special attack is 85, its special defense is 45, and its speed is 70. And I should note that even though the attack stat is 95, keep in mind that one of Cloyster's abilities can be able to utilize its 95 attack stat and make it very intimidating. So let's go ahead and dive into its abilities. So you have Shell Armor, which blocks critical hit ratios. Great on Exclaviar, not really good on Cloyster. Then you have Skill Link, which increases the multi-strike moves to always maximize output. In other words, you will always launch 5 hits against your opponent. And you have a hidden ability, which is Overcoat, which protects the Pokemon from things like sand, hail, and powder, i.e. Spore. Now, the reason why I mentioned hidden abilities is so that way this broadcast is not dated, but I should note that the ability you should really be seeking out on Cloyster is Skill Link, because Skill Link is the reason why a lot of people carry Cloyster. Isn't that right, Roded?
I mean, competitively, yeah, there's no reason to use Cloyster without skilling.
Certainly.
99.8% of the time.
Certainly. I know there might be some Rapid Spin people out there. They're probably going to write to us saying, hey, you can use Cloyster for Rapid Spin.
Well, spin Cloyster can still run a skill link, right? Because you use Rapid Spin, at which point you're faster than Garchomp. So being able to have access to Icicle Spear to Oko, it's pretty nice. Like, you can actually be a pretty decent offensive Rapid Spinner. Okay, maybe that's not entirely true. You can still be an okay offensive Rapid Spinner. You're kind of just worse Starmie, but Starmie is really good, so it's something.
Certainly. And I should dive into the sets here. Now, there are only 2 sets that Road and I came up with. Honorable mention to the Choice Scarf Cloyster. Road had felt that you should know that it exists, but you should not invest in it for any serious play. And it's a very memey set. Road, am I correct?
Yes, it's similar to like Thunderbolt Gengar. You should be aware that your opponent could be using it. And if they're using their Cloyster or their Gengar in that example, in a way that only makes sense if they have X move, it's not a common enough set to really expect them to be bluffing, so probably play around it. That being said, I don't think it's good enough to actually use. It's just something you should know that exists. The idea of Scarf Cloyster is it's Cloyster that, without having to boost, is going to be faster than Garchomp and Hydreigon and Gengar and like some other Pokemon, and will threaten to kill them with Icicle Spear. That's the set. That's the gimmick. It's not the worst thing ever, but far from the best.
That's true. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the one common set. And actually, I'm going to list the common set and the not common set together. Now, in the slide, you should see the top one, and that's going to be the common set. The not common set is going to be the bottom one. Now, for visual effect, I may put a different color for that. I might put a purplish color for the common set, and the not common set I might put in a white color. So you might want to look out for that. I just wanted to note that for your sake. Let's go ahead and dive into the common set, shall we? So that would be the classic Shell Smasher. So what are the IVs for this? HP plus 25, attack is 31, defense is plus 25, special attack doesn't really matter. Special defense is plus 25 and its speed is 31. Its EVs are 6 HP, 252 attack, 202 speed. Its nature is either adamant, so plus attack minus special attack, or jolly, plus speed minus special attack. And its moves are Shell Smash, Icicle Spear, and Rock Blast. You can either run Ice Shard or Explosion. Its item is a King's Rock, or Life Orb, or a Focus Sash. And its ability is Skill Link. Of note, Roided put in the calculations, and if you hold a King's Rock, you have a 41% chance to flinch, implying that you have Icicle Spear. Am I right on that?
Important to mention, if that calculation is correct, yes, I did it. If that calculation is incorrect, then I stole it from Smogon. So it's their fault, don't blame me. It's a functionally 41%. That's with Icicle Spear, because of course, Rock Blast would have a slightly lower chance because it has a chance to miss. And I don't care to calculate that, but let's call it 38%.
Awesome. And I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox in the series here. I'm going to actually dive into the next set here that I have listed, and then we're going to talk about Cloyster as a whole, because Roided and I, when we did a conference prior, we talked about Cloyster as a whole rather than talk about Cloyster as 2 sets. So I want to go ahead and talk about the not common set right now, and then Roid is going to give his commentary about the Cloyster builds. So let's go ahead and dive into the not common set right now. We have the Mixed Sweeper. Now, it works better on screens. So that means if you have an Electrode with light, screen, reflect, and holding Light Clay, then it should work better on that particular build. And also Aerodactyl, Taunt, Wealth Rock. So it works better on that particular build. We can talk about this a little later. So the IVs are HP plus 25, attack is 31, defense is plus 25, special attack is 31, special defense is plus 25, and speed is 31. Its EVs are, and Roided calculated this exactly, so make sure you put in these exact EVs. 182 attack, 76 special attack, and 252 speed. Its nature is either naive plus speed minus special defense, or naughty plus attack minus special defense. Its moves are Shell Smash, Icicle Spear, Rock Blast, and Hydro Pump. And its items are either Mystic Water, Life Orb, or Focus Sash. And Focus Sash is if you're not running screens. And the ability is Skill Link. Now, Before I give you Rodent's commentary, I must elaborate about what these items do. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? So, we have the King's Rock on the common set. What does the King's Rock do? Well, King's Rock increases a move's chance to flinch if the move makes physical contact. So you can be able to use Icicle Spear, and you can increase that chance to 41%, as Rode has alluded to earlier. And if Rode's wrong, he says blame Smogon, not him. So there you go. That's one way to kind of escape liability. Good job, man. You should be a lawyer.
It's worked out well for me so far.
Awesome. The next item is a Life Orb. And what Life Orb does is that increases your damage output by 30%, but at the cost of some of your HP per turn. And the Life Orb is good if you want that extra edge in your damage. And Roded has done the calculations, and it does knock out extra threats if you were to carry a Life Orb on Cloyster, right?
Oh yeah, so Life Orb basically solves all of your math on everything besides, like, melodic and bulky spiel types, we'll call them. The downside is, of course, the little bit of chip damage, because you're assuming that you're getting at least a little bit chipped when you play up your Shell Smash.
Right.
So that incremental bit of chip damage from Life Orb, and the real thing to watch out for is that little bit of damage combining with your opponent having access to Bullet Punch or Mach Punch from two incredibly common Pokemon. So it's not unheard of to consider playing around those things.
Right. And then you have the Focus Sash, which pretty much means that you will live one hit guaranteed. So let's just say Cloyster is up against a Jolteon, and you want to use Shell Smash against a Jolteon. You can do that, and you can be able to live a Thunderbolt, and then you can be able to retaliate against that Jolteon and do Icicle Spear. And I've actually done this several times in my competitive career, so that's why I mentioned this example offhand. But the Focus Sash essentially allows you to survive one heavy blow. It does not work if you were to face an opponent with multi-hit moves, meaning another Cloyster with Rock Blast, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing. Cloyster with Focus Sash can't sit up in front of opposing Cloyster. I guess we'll get into that later. But
let's go ahead and dive into the items on the not common set. So we talked about Life Orb, we talked about Focus Sash if you're not running screens, but then you have Mystic Water. Now, what Mystic Water does is that it is a type boosting item that increases your water type moves by plus 20%. And this gives you an extra edge, especially if you're running a move like Hydro Pump, as you see in the not common variant. And it allows you to knock out extra threats that you would not otherwise be able to knock out, things like Magnezone and Am I right on that?
yeah, so importantly, even on the mixed set, your Hydro Pump with the minimal special attack investment there, it's not going to be getting you kills against things like Max HP Scizor, which is really what you should be planning around, unless you have some sort of boosting item. Now, if you have Life Orb, of course, you're going to be killing it with Rock Blast. But Mystic Water allows you to kind of bluff that you have a Focus Sash, right? Because there is no giveaway that you have a Mystic Water. Whereas, Life Orb is the recoil, which lets people know what's going on. It allows your Hydro Pump to hit those key numbers against Magnezone and Scizor, which are going to be the two most common Pokemon that are just going to stuff Cloyster. It's not insignificant that it does that. It's a pretty decent niche for it to have. I don't know. I feel like it's debatable. The move ends up being the best there.
As for the moves, you might be looking at us like we're from outer space, and you might be asking us, Roded, best friends, you're talking about Shell Smash. What on earth does Shell Smash even do? That's a good question. Lowers down your defenses by -1, but it increases your attack, special attack, and speed by +2. This is a very pivotal move for Cloyster because this is the one move that makes Cloyster good. In fact, I would even argue this move is what makes Cloyster OU. Am I right on that, Roded?
Yeah, it'd be absolute garbage without this.
Certainly.
With the exception of Gen 2, when it was good without this, but so we're a lot of different things.
That, and also it has the devastational ice type.
It's often considered a kind of lackluster defensive type, but it's great offensively. That's all Cloyster really needs.
Certainly. And then we have Icicle Spear. Now, Icicle Spear, what it does is that it is a multi-hit move, but thanks to Cloyster's skill link ability, it will hit 5 times every single turn, 100%. The only time it doesn't is if there's a very rare example of a skill swap Pokemon that essentially takes away your skill link, otherwise your hits are going to hit randomly. But besides that one niche example, and I don't know how on earth Cloyster is going to do a physical move against Cofagrigus that's going to give it the mummy ability, but out of those obscure examples, Cloyster generally is going to keep its skill link ability most of the time. Right, Roded?
Yeah, you could pretty much just generalize that to always. Like, Cloyster is just going to have skill link. That's what it do.
Certainly, because I know some people are going to write about that, so that's why I wanted to mention that. And then we have Rock Blast, which is a multi-hit rock-type move, and let's just say there are threats that resist your Ice-type. Well, Rock Blast is an alternative, and you might be saying, but Roy, isn't Rock Blast an egg move? It used to be. Now you can buy the TM Rock Blast, and you can be able to teach Cloyster Rock Blast that way. So, Roded, what's your take on Rock Blast?
I mean, it's incredible. The noticeable lack of coverage between these two moves is Steel. Yeah, it's kind of a problem that Steel resists both. Luckily, the most common Steel-type Scizor is at least neutral to Rock, but you will need some sort of move to boost your damage to kind of fix that.
Right, and that's where the Mix Sweeper comes in. We can talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
And then we have the Ice Shard and Explosion. So what Ice Shard does is that it's a priority move that will let you hit the first turn guaranteed unless your opponent outspeeds you with a priority move, which in that case your opponent goes first, as you may know. But I should note that Dragonite's Extreme Speed is an exception because I have been in a PvP fight before and I've used Ice Shard and Dragonite used Extreme Speed and it knocked me out. So there's one exception to the rule. Watch out for Dragonite, right?
Well, I mean, that's just because Extreme Speed is a higher priority bracket.
That is true. Cloyster is faster than Dragonite after a Shell Smash. And then you have Explosion. What it does, it is a sacrifice button that Cloyster can click, and you can essentially deal a lot of damage to a Pokemon if you feel like that your other moves can't deal the damage to it. Roded, now, you've been talking a lot about the dynamics between Adamant and Jolly. Would you like to discuss what we have been discussing in terms of our briefing?
Sure. So the natures on Cloyster are a little weird. Like, there's pros and cons to both of them. The main thing with Ice Shard is that it only really makes sense on an Adamant set. If you're going Jolly, the whole point to go Jolly Cloyster is to be faster than things like Scarf, Timid, Hydreigon. Importantly, you're still faster than Scarf, Modest Hydreigon with Adamant. And that is the good Scarf Hydreigon. Scarf, Timid Hydreigon is bad because it doesn't kill Garchomp. Still faster than the set you should be. It's just if you're worried about that or worried about Scarf Garchomp. And at that point, if you're already running Jolly to be faster than the Scarf Dragons, there's no point to run Ice Shard. You're kind of like missing the point of running Jolly. So both of them are fine, I just wouldn't run them together. You can run Ice Shard or Jolly. Or you can run neither. It's totally cool to run neither. I run neither on mine and I don't miss them. But
awesome.
That is why.
And that, my friends, is the classic Shell Smasher. And this is the Cloyster you see in OU most commonly. Although the Mix Sweeper you don't really see.
Yeah.
Even though the Mix Sweeper you don't see too much. But I remember I promised you earlier in the program that I was going to go a little bit into more detail as to what a screen team looks like. And Roded is going to discuss it as well. But just to give a synopsis of it, you have Aerodactyl with Taunt, Sash, Rocks. And then you have an Electrode with Light Screen, Reflect, and Taunt as well, just in case your Aerodactyl's Taunt expires. You can taunt your opponent. And then for the fourth move, you can either run, I've seen Volt Switch, I've seen Explosion, and I've seen Teleport. So that's the move you can run an Electrode. So Aerodactyl and Electrode really do keep this particular Cloyster build protected. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's like they want to give this set like the best opportunity to set up, because if you're behind a screen, it's going to be really hard to deal with. If they haven't damaged you, like let's say you get your screens up and then explode or teleport into Cloyster. If they switch out on the turn that you Shell Smash, you're very close to winning the game, unless they have one of the few specific Cloyster counters, and that's why a lot of Cloyster's items are centered around beating those specific counter Pokemon. So that's why you have like Life Orb to suddenly beat Scizor all of a sudden. Or you have Hydro Pump to suddenly be able to beat Magnezone. Or Cofagrigus dies to Life Orb or like Mystic Water Hydro Pump. Items seem niche, and they are. It's just that there are already a very niche amount of Pokemon who can counter Cloyster to begin with. So being able to remove a couple of those is generally better than having like a more general use move like Ice Shard. Like, I don't know, Ice Shard maybe has a few more applications, but Ice Shard is more of, well, my Cloyster's going to die, I want to get some priority damage in before I die, which is cool. And that's valid. There's situations where that's good. But if you want to sweep with Cloyster, being able to remove one of the few hard Cloyster counters is really worth it, I think.
Certainly. I would like to describe the move on the not common variant, Hydro Pump. And what does Hydro Pump do? Well, it's a high-powered water-type move, and it does have a chance to miss, but it's very high-powered, and it does punch a giant hole into some Pokemon. And Rhoda, you've actually done some calculations, and you've told me about how many Pokemon fold to Hydro Pump. So would you like to elaborate to our audience here as to what Hydro Pump does and the capacity of it?
Yeah, so I will preface all of this with one of the issues with Hydro Pump is it does kind of require a damaging item with it. Now, the upside to this is that there are some Pokemon, like Magnezone, that even Life Orb won't fix your math on. Like Life Orb Icicle Spear still isn't going to kill it unless you get like one crit after Stealth Rocks and they're not max HP. It's iffy. What Hydro Pump does is it fixes that matchup. It also lets you run Mystic Water as your boosting move, which noticeably won't give itself away. There's no indication that you're running Mystic Water until your Hydro Pump hits for more than they expect. And also, it doesn't damage you. And especially behind screens, one of the main things your opponent wants to do is get closer to the point where they can kill it with Conqueror Mach Punch or Scizor Bullet Punch. Notably, Conqueror Mach Punch is going to deal drastically more damage in this situation. So that's what it's there for. Hydro Pump is going to be, it's getting you kills on Scizor without either, if you want to kill Scizor, you need Hard Stone or Life Orb or Hydro Pump. If you want to kill Magnezone, you just need Hydro Pump. It lets you pick up kills on Cofferegus, which are 3 of the big ones.
Yeah, certainly. I would like to note that the reason why Hardstone is not listed here as one of the items is because, Roded, you told me that Hardstone is not really worth running because Hardstone doesn't really address a lot of other threats, but it only addresses Scizor specifically, right?
Right, yeah. Like there's a ton of different items you could run on Cloyster, right? Or moves. Like you could run HP Fire if you want to, let's say, always kill Scizor without risking the Hydro Pump miss and without an offensive item. Like that's a legitimate option on Cloyster for Scizor. So I feel like these are a much more common set of moves that you should expect. The rest are quite niche.
All right, and Roded did want me to note this, that even though the slides show HP plus 25, defense is plus 25, and special defense is plus 25, Roded did want me to state that if you can afford it, make those IVs 31. But if you can't afford it, you can do 25 plus. Roded, before I close out the computer, I know some people are probably going to ask us, how come you calced the EVs the way you did for the mix sweeper? So 182 attack and 76 special attack. What sort of threats were you thinking about targeting?
If you run a Life Orb, you'll kill every Cloyster counter except for Melodic, which you're never killing with an item, or Magnezone.
Alright, I think that's a pretty good synopsis of it, so let's go ahead. Oh yeah, almost forgot. With the light screen and reflect set on Electrode, make sure that Electrode's item is a light clay. I just wanted to note that before I close out the computer. Roded, am I correct on this?
I kind of liked a bit more bulk on Electrode. Like, you're already going to be the fastest Pokemon out there, so it usually doesn't hurt to just put a bit more bulk on it. That lets you live stuff like Garchomp, Life Orb, Garchomp, Earthquake after a Reflect. So you can like reflect as they're still going to be taunted from your Aerodactyl, and then you can taunt them. So going into your next Pokemon, you know they can only use physical attacks, and you have a Reflect up, and you can set up Cloyster there. So like, I forget the exact moves, and like it's not awful to run just max HP and speed. I think I even mine to be like just a couple speed faster than Aerodactyl.
Right. Because
the way I was looking at it, like Aerodactyl is going to be the next fastest like realistic Pokemon. I don't think there's a problem with going max speed though.
Certainly.
So for the video, just say like you can probably run max speed, but like I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, certainly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the computer here, and Roded, I'm going to go back to my original spot. So.
All right.
There we go. Alrighty. So before we sign off, I would like to mention that this competitive analysis has been a true labor of love. Roided, I appreciate you for being on this competitive analysis. I am glad that you're here.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to be here, man.
Certainly. And before we sign off of the video, I would like to mention the breeding tool that I like to feature here since I find it very useful. The BlueNose breeding tool, which you can see here. And this time, Cloyster does have egg moves, unlike unlike our genderless counterparts. So let's go ahead and take a look. So out of all the egg moves, the most useful egg move for Cloyster is Rapid Spin. And you can go and search there. There's an elaborate amount of chain breeding that you would need to do, particularly with the Squirtle and with Kabuto and Cloyster. So if you can chain breed there, you can do that. Also, you can chain breed with the Delibird if Smeargle can sketch. And yeah, feel free to go through and see what you can breed with. Wonder One Rapid Spin on Cloyster you can. Now, Aqua Ring, See, Cloyster is an ice type, so you don't really need to run that because Cloyster is now more of an offensive Pokemon. Despite its wonderful base 180 defense stat, a lot of people still run it offensively, right, Roided?
Oh yeah, no, you're only ever going to see offensive Cloyster.
And I went ahead and closed out of the breeding tool here. Oh yeah, before I sign off, I should note that I remember in the Weavile competitive analysis, I mentioned briefly that Cloyster is a much better option than Weavile. I still stand by that comment.
I think they're very different. I like using Cloyster more than Weavile, but I wouldn't say one is necessarily better. If you want to sweep your opponent's team, then yeah, Cloyster is much better, but Cloyster also needs a team that gives it that turn of setup, whereas Weavile doesn't. Kind of neat.
But there is an issue, though, with Weavile, as I mentioned in my competitive analysis. There are so many things that can kill Weavile 6 ways to Sunday, and Cloyster can just come in with its base 180 defense, which does give it more leeway to take some hits.
If Conkeldurr is burned, you're going to take more damage than you would like, I guess, is how I would put it.
Is it enough damage to do a knockout? That's the key.
It won't kill you from... Well, if Conkeldurr is burned and you're at -1 defense, it will basically kill you from full.
Okay.
So, but if you have Reflect, or if Conkeldurr hasn't got a chance to get burned, there's ways to play around it. It's scary. It's not great.
I've had to deal with the Conkeldurr problem before, and I'm going to say this. I am a user of the Cloyster strat, and even though I were to use Shell Smash, I like to predict Conk coming in, so that way I can be able to do my Icicle Spear, and I typically knock out Conk. So what's your take on the Icicle Spear being used when Conk comes in?
Icicle Spear never kills Conk unless you have your +2.
Right, yeah, correct, yeah.
And no one would ever switch Conkeldurr into a +2 Cloyster, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's only something that happens after you kill a Pokemon, then they bring a Conkeldurr. And so that's the difference between Weavile and Cloyster. Cloyster probably beats more Pokemon than Weavile, but Cloyster has to. You're committed. You use a turn to set up. If you switch out afterwards, then you're down 2 turns of tempo and you're losing the game. Whereas Weavile can come in, threaten something, and then switch out. You don't lose anything by switching Weavile out. Whereas if you Shell Smashed, you kind of lose a lot the other way. Cloyster beats more things than Weavile, but Cloyster also has to beat more things because of the style of Pokemon it is. Right? Volcarona beats all but 3 Pokemon, whereas Garchomp beats 60% of Pokemon. But Garchomp is still seen more commonly because Garchomp can switch out without losing you anything, whereas Volcarona can't freely switch in and out.
Speaking of Volcarona, you know that Cloyster can actually deal with Volcarona with Rock Blast, something Weavile can't do.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. And Weavile can still do a lot to Volcarona. Well, I mean, it's a physical attacker, right? Volca's pretty abysmal physical defense. But, I mean, no, it's not killing it in one hit, but also, no one's really bringing in Volcarona in front of a setup Cloyster.
That is true. Actually, I've had people do that to me before, bringing a Volcarona.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll put it, no one will do that unless they're actively losing the game. Sure, as you're losing, you put Pokemon in front of it. That's not an option most people would want to go for.
Right.
I should clarify.
I have seen a lot of Pokemon that can deal with Weavile 6 ways through Sunday, and Cloyster, I don't really see too many Pokemon deal with Cloyster too much, right? Like, I don't really see too many Pokemon.
They will have a pretty limited pool of counters, and you can counter those counters with move choices. But then you lose to some other stuff.
That is true. And with that, let's go ahead and sign off the video. I just wanted to clarify that because I know some people might be watching the Weavile video and then watching the Cloyster video. So,
yeah.
I just wanted to note that. Roided, thank you so much for your competitive analysis and opinion about Cloyster. I appreciate your commentary on this.
Yeah, dude. It's fun. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. This is the Roy Rogers News Channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content that you see here. And this is the Roy Rogers News Channel signing off. Fast, accurate, and biased, Roy Rogers News. And Roided, you're welcome to come back on the program anytime.
Woo! Thanks.
Certainly. Fast, accurate, and biased, Roy Rogers News.